Hey, it's time for an apple fritter. Here's your host, Jimmy Apple.
Welcome to another episode of An Apple a Day's The Fritter, and I'm your host, Jimmy Apple. Today we're talking about helping voters with disabilities participate in the democratic process of voting. We have a message from the Department of Social Security. During the 2022 midterm elections, 38.3 million voters with disabilities will have the opportunity to participate in the democratic process. These voters may include you, one of your friends, or a family member. Voters with disabilities face unique obstacles when casting their ballots. The Help America Vote Act ensures that all voters with disabilities have the right to mark, cast, and verify their ballots privately and independently. The Election Assistance Commission, EAC, helps voters with disabilities register to vote and understand their options to cast ballots. As the November midterms approach, here are tips and resources to help those with disabilities fully participate in our democratic process. Know your rights to accessible elections. As a voter with a disability, you have the right to vote privately and independently, vote in an accessible polling place with voting machines for voters with disabilities, seek assistance from workers at the polling place who have been trained to use accessible voting machines, and bring someone to help you vote. You can also ask local election officials ahead of the election to tell you about available voting aids, voting assistance, and mail-in or absentee ballot procedures. The EAC developed a pocket-sized voter card and a large print version in Braille that serve as guides about voting rights for voters with disabilities. Use trusted sources of information to help you vote. Contact state and local election officials. With the rise of social media, election information can come from a range of sources and often varies from state to state. Make sure you use official sources of information about registering to vote, updating your registration, and casting your ballot. What sources of information should you use? The best source for election information are your state and local election officials. At the local level, this is often, but not always, a county office. These election officials can address any questions you may have about the voting process, as well as available accommodations if you have a disability. To find your state and local election office, go to eac.gov/vote. Learn about various methods to register and vote in your state. An increasing number of states and voters use alternative means of voting. According to the EAC's Disability and Voting Accessibility in the 2020 election survey, voters with disabilities are more likely to vote by mail than in person. Go to eac.gov/vote to learn more about your options. Other ways the EAC is helping to improve voting access for people with disabilities. During the 2020 general election, over 80% of voters with disabilities reported voting independently without any difficulty. Only 5% of the voters with disabilities surveyed reported having disabilities using mail ballots. While this is an improvement over previous elections, the EAC understands that there is more work to be done. As part of their efforts, the EAC equips election officials with best practices on accessible voter registration, in-person voting, and voting by mail. The EAC also conducts research to identify accessibility gaps and other resources. Safe, secure, and accessible elections are the foundation of our democracy. This November, we encourage every voter to understand their rights and use trusted sources of information before casting their ballot. You can find a comprehensive list of resources for voters with disabilities on eac.gov. The Department of Social Security asks that you share this information with your families and your friends. And you can share this episode with your families and your friends. And there's your information. I want to thank you for stopping by today. And I want to leave you with this one thought. Be the reason that somebody else smiles today. Okay? Hey, you've been listening to An Apple a Day's The Fritter. My name is Jimmy Apple, and I'll be back again tomorrow morning to talk to you again. Have a great day, my friends.
Join Jimmy tomorrow for another apple fritter. In the meantime, stop over at our YouTube group page, Living with a Disability, join in the conversation and make some new friends. See you next time.